Awesome. Um, my name is Captain Ezekiel. Sorry, I got caught off guard a little bit. Hi, my name is Captain Ezekiel. This is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. This is obviously the seventh main installment of the series. This game's awesome. But before I say anything more about the game, I have my co-commentator here with me, LP Soldier. If you want to introduce yourself.
How you doing? I'm LP Soldier 0303. I too run this game, but I run it on console, so I'm a lonely peon compared to the PC runners.
Yeah, LP is I have him commentating because he's a notable console runner. He's like the fourth time. He's really good. So I'm ready to start this game in a second, but basically I used to hold record for this game a few months ago. With a PB of 127.44, or my current PB is 127.35. The timer for this game is in-game time, so pauses and stuff like that don't actually apply to the in-game timer because we use that for strategy and whatnot. But yeah, so this game is pretty fun. It's going to be pretty scary. If you're not used to scary first-person games, oh well. We're gonna see a few different skips and everything. So I'm actually really excited to run this game because it has been ran for ESA since Trans ran it a couple years back, and GDQ was a few years ago from Cars and Engine. So, are we ready for the countdown?
Yes, sirree.
All right.
Ooh.
So we are going to start time in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, good luck.
Thank you. So this category is the New Game Plus Easy Any Percent category, which means we're using skips, we're using all extra items we got for beating the game, collecting all the like Mr. Everywheres and stuff, so we get like a better gun, we get more ammo, and all that fun stuff. We get a cool saw. It's sick. So to kind of give you guys a TLDR about this game and what it's really about, this is Mia. So we're playing as Ethan Winters. This is Mia Winters, his wife. So we have to go save her because she's stuck out in Dolby, Louisiana, doing a bunch of stuff she shouldn't be doing. Like being evil, for starters. You shouldn't do that. It's basically something you learn throughout the game, is that Mia's actually not a good person, but we're out here to save our wife. So that's what we do. This is what we're out here to do. And this whole intro cutscene is basically her explaining, hey, I messed up. My bad. Come out and help me. And then we have to go to that. So that's really is the plot of the majority of like going to why we're in this situation as Ethan is why we're going out to Dolby, Louisiana. So it's that's basically what it's about. And this whole intro cutscene, and you'll notice this with the game. There's a few cutscenes we just can't skip. So we have about 3 minutes and about 20 seconds of us preparing to go into the guest house. So the guest house is a lot of fun. It's where we get to walk behind Mia for about 15 minutes and do a couple fights, and that's very exciting. So yeah, it's gonna be great. I know there's some stuff. Console has a different, like LP maybe will be able to tell us a bit more about console, but on PC we do a couple retry skips and some speed boost stuff and a whole bunch of fun things like that, like a Mia one hit encounter. So it should be great.
Yeah, Guest House is super fun, but it's also the bane of every runner of this game's existence, because you're going to see it a lot.
Yeah, he's not wrong. There's this category that I run is very optimized. The times are very close. They have been forever. So when you're doing a game that this runs about an hour and a half long, when you're doing a category like this and it gets down to the wire and you lose a second in Guest House and just reset, you go back to the start of Guest House and try again. So we're going to have control of the character here in a second, and we're basically just making a mad dash to Guest House by running through the woods here. And Ethan just kind of admires the atmosphere around here, all the bugs and probably very humid Louisiana weather.
Which, by the way, Dolby isn't a real place. Didn't know that.
It's not real.
It sounded so real the first time I heard it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's real.
I don't blame you. It does sound definitely real. I'm kind of, you'll notice I'm like kind of not next to the walls. I don't hug walls at this part of the game because all the walls are like invisible. So they kind of make it easy to bump into them, and they're kind of square. So it doesn't feel really good when you run into walls and you lose time that way. And like, why are you speedrunning if you want to lose time? You know what I'm saying? So it's what we're trying to avoid. I do apologize in advance. You'll hear my keyboard. You're not going to be the first. If you're in chat and you say that's a loud keyboard, promise you I've heard that before. It is a loud keyboard. And I do apologize. You'll hear me mash a few times and you'll be like, wow, it sounds like gunfire. And I'm sorry about that, but hopefully we don't hear it too much.
It's just the game. That's what it sounds like.
Exactly. So we're coming up on our first retry of the game. So retries and their significance is that one specifically speeds me up. But there's a few other retries that like displace me a little bit. They spawn enemies faster, and we do that as a means to save time. So you'll see that a few times. And you'll also see what I'm about to do here a few times. I'm going to go in and change my FPS down to 30. We do this to allow us to like squeeze past enemies and spaces a little bit faster. Ooh, wrong button there. We use it to squeeze past like little tight doors and like through enemies and stuff faster, so that I don't know why it is this way. But with the Resident Evil engine that was used for 7, the second remake and the third remake, is FPS plays a huge part in a lot of things, including like hitting stuff with melee weapons and squeezing past enemies. So that's why I do that, and you'll see that a few times this run.
Yeah, for anyone familiar with RE2 remake, the knife is linked to FPS, and it's very similar to the axe in RE7.
Yeah, it makes it. That's why those games have certain categories that limit your FPS, because you could like two-shot bosses with the knife in RE2 remake. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So now, LP, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this Clancy here, or is this Andre?
Yes.
Okay, so this is.
No, it is Andre.
Okay, so this is an Andre skip. So normally, if you're looking straight ahead, you walk through this water, a body will pop out, and your character will fall back. Ethan will get spooked. But if you just strafe and hug the wall and look away from it, you don't have to worry about that. It's like out of sight, out of mind. No dead body there.
In VR, that's one of the most like terrifying spots.
Oh yeah. So now we got Evie. Oh, not Evie. Sorry, we got Mia. At this point, we should just leave, right? Game's over. We got what we came here for. Princess was not in another castle, so we should just be able to leave. We got her, right? It's that easy. Unfortunately, it isn't. So this is probably one of the biggest gripes people will have about the game if you're speedrunning it, because you're speedrunning, you want to go fast, but unfortunately we have like a auto scroller here where we kind of stand behind Mia for a little while she sits and talks. So if there are any donations at all, please feel free to read them, because we're going to be walking behind her for a little bit.
Sure thing. We do have a $5 donation by Yossi Hop saying, "Hello, LP Soldier and Ezekiel. The entire RE7 community wishes you luck. Don't let Jack push you around too much. If he does, blame ZGL."
Yossi!
Thanks, Yossi.
Thank you very much for that donation.
Yeah. So when I said we're just really stuck behind her, this no joke. There's nothing I can do about this. Usually we like to spend time here studying how cool these bolt cutters are and how this asset got reused in like 3 different Resident Evil games.
It did. Do you want to mention menuing and how important it is in this one?
Absolutely. So RE7's a little bit different. Obviously, a lot of Resident Evil games have menuing to them, where it's important to have your menu correct when you're doing certain things, picking up key items and stuff. Resident Evil 7 is probably the most extreme in that fashion, where Resident Evil 7's inventory is unique to where I can put my cursor somewhere, and if I close and reopen it, it's going to be in the same spot. That's different than the other games. They'll put them back to its original starting point. So what this means is when we're using items, we're interacting with anything key, it's going to open up our inventory for us to use something. So I position my mouse here on the furthest right point of this bolt cutters, for example, because I'm going to still need to use the bolt cutters next, but I'm going to pick up an item that I'm going to need to move off of the bolt cutters to use in this slot later. So I'm positioning so that I can do that as quickly as possible, because I don't want to go into my inventory and move my cursor beforehand, because that just wastes time. So you'll see that a lot where I'm menuing and moving stuff around after boss fights, before boss fights. Anytime I have downtime, you'll see me adjust a little bit, just so everything's set up correctly. And this extends past just the inventory. This also applies to the item boxes. We're going to be doing that as well. It's very, very important. It's probably the most important thing about Resident Evil 7 when you're speedrunning it, is having good inventory management.
I believe it was Revelations 2 also uses the same menu system.
I believe so, actually. I don't remember because I only did a casual playthrough, but I think you're probably right.
I think it is. I think it'll stay put where it was. So thank you, Revelations 2.
Yeah. All right, so we're finally getting out of the auto-scroller a little bit, and what's supposed to happen here is Mia's going to traverse that room a bit and go through some dialogue that we can't interrupt. I come and play with the dolls because it's really cool. I'm going to position myself against this wall because basically the next part of the game can't move forward if you're near Mia or if you're looking at her. So I'm going to try and be as close to her as I can while also not looking at her or being near her. So I'm waiting for a specific this dialogue, and then she'll get kidnapped. Like that, and then basically just the door disappears somehow. She's gone. Sad times. And now we're moving up to our first actual, I'm not going to say boss fight, but like fight encounter of the game. We have to go in that bathroom for like just a little bit over the door frame and then back out for this to trigger. You'll see a couple things like that where triggers are very important in this game. We have to do certain things even though skipping them would be just so much better, but we have to do them.
It's surprising how much Capcom put this game on lock. Like you have to trigger a lot of other stuff before you can do anything.
Yeah, there's an out of bounds in this game that we could skip a lot more with it if the game would let us, but because we have to hit certain triggers, we can't. So
yeah.
So we don't resist here. We have no reason to. She can't kill us here. On Madhouse, she can almost kill you, but she can't kill us here on easy mode. And normally, as a player, you'd run away from the woman with the knife, but we're actually just going to run straight at her.
It's intimidation, that's what it is.
You got to make yourself look bigger than them, and then they'll be afraid of you.
Yeah.
So we let Mia stab us here, and this is a first little, not really trick, or it's something we have to trigger. So we have to get Mia to stand up. This is actually a little bit more difficult than people give it credit for. We have to look, like, if you're staring at Mia the whole time, it's not going to work. If you're not running around, it's not going to work. Like, there's a certain trigger to get Mia to stand up, right? You want to do it as fast as possible. You could run around the back, go into the bathroom, and come out. Sure, that could work, but it's a little bit slower. So we're using the strategy that lets us stand still and do it. Mostly stand still, so it can be finicky sometimes. So let's hope this works for us.
There's a few visual cues a lot of runners will use. Stuff on the floor to line yourself up.
Yeah, I'm like lining myself up, and then I'm going to stare at RD and kind of wiggle my camera a bit. Perfect. Didn't have to move at all, so that's good.
Awesome.
And if I'm lucky, I can maybe get a one hit here.
So this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, is that it's tied to the frame rate. So impact of the axe is by its movement. So one swing can count as multiple hits. It's also a super satisfying sound too.
Yeah, and right there I did get the one hit, and that one's a little bit harder than the second one hit, but it's a little bit less important. This one saves about 3 seconds. The other one saves a lot more time than that. But getting me in one hit is so nice. So what was that, LP?
That was quite beautiful.
Thank you. I was a little bit too close to that phone there. You can't stand too close to the phone or else it won't ring. You can stare right at it, but if you're too close, it just doesn't want to ring.
It's like watching a boiling pot.
Exactly.
It just won't boil if you look at it.
Watching paint dry, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, watching paint dry would actually be better than the entire downstairs part of the basement in this.
True. So coming up on the second retry here, it does the same thing as the first one. Makes us faster. I wait for a visual cue in the top left, which is the checkpoint load. That's when you know you can do the retry. If I do it too fast, I'll get set back way further. We don't want that. Alright, so we got the fuse. Time to go drop the fuse in. Because we're coming up at the end of Guest House. Then we get to actually play the game. I'm very excited.
It's when it really starts.
It's like in that moment there where I activated the fuse box and slipped over one inventory space to drop it in. That's what we're talking about when we're talking like inventory management is super important.
And in reality, that's one of the few that you actually have to do that. Usually from here on out, he'll have his cursor on the item he's going to use next.
Yes, and one thing I did forget to mention, we are playing on the censored version of the game. So on the Steam version of the game, you don't get stabbed with a little pitchfork here, you get stabbed with a screwdriver through your hand, and you'll notice exactly how censored this is. So just put it in perspective. On the Steam version, your arm gets cut off here, and you see the whole thing, but not on the censored version. Your arm just gets cut a little bit, but you keep it entirely.
Which doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense at all, and the animations look super weird on it, and it doesn't look natural. Like, why is this thumb that long? Like, it's just, I don't get why they did that.
Yeah, it's actually more disturbing because like his hand like pulsates and stuff. It's just like this might be worse.
All right, and we'll explain why we're using the censored version a little bit further down the run when we have those moments come up, because it saves us time basically.
Yeah, it's quite a time save.
We're gonna ditch that out of our inventory. So now we're coming up on Mia 2, and I'll let LP kind of go over what I'm looking for here.
So similar to the Mia 1 fight, and like we said with tying to the frame rate, Mia's gonna drop down from this window, and because of the frame rate being tied to the axe and being uncapped, you can actually get Mia and finish her off in one swing, as opposed to multiple that it would take. On console, it takes the least you can do is 2, but PC you can do 1.
Just like that.
And ooh, Captain got it very nice.
Yeah, that's the one hit there. Messing that up, any swing you have adds like a second or two. Oh, she has ragdoll physics. I actually love Mia's ragdoll physics, but
oh, it's so good.
It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that one hit, you lose about a second to a second and a half every time you miss the hit. So
it's like spooning the mannequin. It's great. Oh no, it has where'd the body go?
But that's guest house. We have a little bit of time here. Jack's gonna show up and welcome us to the family. And now we have a little bit of a cutscene. So if there are any other donations, please, you got about a minute or so, you feel free to read any.
Let them roll.
Wonderful. We do have a $15 donation by Kev without a comment and without putting this money to any of our incentives. Why didn't you? It's so easy, you know? If you donate, you can choose whether to put your donation to one of our incentives. We do have 2 incentives on the next game right after Resident Evil 7. For Silent Hill 2, we have a bid war deciding which ending you want to see. If you want to see the dog ending or the UFO ending. And no one donated for either option yet. And we also have the incentive to have Ecdysis play this game plank only on hard difficulty. So only with a starter weapon, but we do need $500 to match to get that. We only have $90 on that yet. So we still need $410. So please keep your donations in if you want to see Ecdysis have a really hard time with only a plank versus a whole lot of zombies.
Awesome. By the way, the dog ending for Silent Hill 2 is very funny.
I was gonna say, how has nobody donated to that?
I love the dog ending. Donate to the dog ending.
Ecdysis is a great runner, by the way, so good luck to him on the next run, by the way.
For sure. As you can see, we're at dinner time. We still have this kind of an auto-scroller, can't really do anything, but this is where we meet the family. From left, not Grandma, that's Grandma, we don't talk about her. We got Lucas here, this is Lucas Baker. Jack Baker is this handsome man right here, and that's Marguerite Baker. This is the Baker family, who so tragically pays the price for Evie, so, spoiler alert. So these are...
Already?
Yeah. So Jack, you're going to see a lot of Jack this run. Jack is definitely the main antagonist that isn't, like, obviously Evelyn. But Jack is, like, he's an amazing character. If I have to say anything about this game, it's that the character design was, like, flawless. Jack Baker was made so perfectly. And he makes you eat a knife almost. Doesn't feel very good. And look at the spread. Like, I mean, Ethan is being kind of a jerk here, honestly. Imagine not eating this delicious food when it's just given to you for free. Like, how crazy is that?
I know, right? Very
Look at it.
rude.
You got canned meat there with a candle in it. I love me some canned meat with candle.
Yeah, spam candle.
All right, so I'm gonna be wiggling. You're gonna hear my keyboard again. My bad. We're gonna be wiggling out of this chair here in a second, and we're gonna have our first interaction with Jack. LP, can you kind of describe Jack's hallway behavior?
So Jack hallway is a little annoying. So Captain's gonna go down this hallway, and you need to grab a key and you need to touch the door. You need to do it in that order. And Jack is going to be in the hallway trying to apprehend you. What you want Jack to do is not touch you at all. He has a few different things he can do. He can grab you, knee you in the face, spin you around, and Captain handled that very nicely. You also need to touch that door. Touching that door triggers the next part of the game a little bit ahead of time. and Captain got through there with nary an issue. But yeah, the whole point there is to avoid Jack at all costs. There is a skip you can do there, but it involves guiding Jack a little bit more down the hallway toward the door, ducking. So it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, there's you pretty much nailed it, right? There's a couple different animations Jack could do. One is hitting you, one is grabbing you, and one is instantly grabbing you. And it's all depending on how well you went down the hallway and how you looked at him and stuff like that. But ideally, you want Jack to grab at you and miss so that you can set up for the what's called the wall skip. So where you get Jack to break through the wall and you go around him, use it as like a shortcut to get through to the hatch faster. But we getting through without getting instant grab, that's more than enough for me.
Yeah. As long as Jack doesn't do anything to you, you're good.
All right, now we're gonna get all of our fancy New Game Plus items. So you're gonna hear me mash again a little bit here. It's to get through the inventory that much quicker. So basically, what we got here is we got our buzzsaw, we got the Albert, we got infinite ammo. We got a couple other extra items we're not going to need, and we got the walking shoes. And we get to meet the cop here. He gets to live for a total of like 5 minutes. It's really exciting. But it's
deputy.
The deputy, right? So the deputy is an interesting character. But we have like another little cutscene here. It's going to take about a minute or so. So if there are donations, please feel free.
Well, we do have our merch store. Did you see all of those awesome ESA shirts that the people are wearing during the summer and winter events? These comfy shirts can be yours as well. Just go to speedrunstore.com, and we have just updated the store with all the new merch that you can get there. So feel free to take a look and get a t-shirt.
Do it.
Definitely do it. So yeah, there's gonna be a few moments like that where we're like, we have another cutscene. that's kind of the theme of RE7. We have a lot of cutscenes. They're all really good cutscenes, but for speedrunning purposes, it can kind of suck sometimes.
It's kind of nice though, having the downtime. A few times you can take a drink. You can, if your hands are sweaty, you can wipe them down.
All right, so we're coming up on Jack 1, which is the first boss fight of the game.
And there's a few strats for that. There's one that's, I don't know, maybe like a half a second or a second faster. And also this is where more of the censorship will come in. There's like no body modification or like body gore that kind of happens in this game. So no like removing of body parts or anything like that. So the way the deputy dies here is going to be different. But yeah, this fight, it depends. I don't know exactly how Captain's going to do it. There's two ways you can do it. Once you want to guide Jack to the car, you want to do a good amount of damage to him, guide him to the car so he gets in the car. And then you can do one of two things. You can take the circular saw to him and do a whole bunch of damage and steer left into the wall. Or like how Captain's doing now, you can take a shot at him as he's veering to the right, which is a bit faster because he's closer to that side of the wall. It's a tricky shot, but Captain gets it very nicely.
Yeah, that's Jack 1 basically. He does a little animation here, but yeah. So the strategy is pretty much covered perfectly. You just got to do enough damage to Jack, bait him into the car, and then kill him while he's driving the car to get him to crash. Basically, the idea there.
And also, Captain grabbed a whole bunch of his New Game Plus items, and this is one of those sections where you want a menu because you have some downtime. So he would throw away any New Game Plus items you get. You can actually throw away from your inventory, and they'll go back into the item box.
Yep. So I got rid of like a couple of the extra defense and offensive scrolls. We don't need those by any means. Jack shoots himself. Promise you, he's not dead. By the way, in case you're convinced.
Yeah. No. Just when you think he is, he's not.
So we are going to grab the Ox Statuette here. This is where we set up for the out of bounds. So the out of bounds is it's fun. It's nice to get it. It's really cool to have one in this game. We didn't have one for the longest time until one was discovered. But it's kind of a not really long process, but from here until we get it is going to be basically me interacting with some items and Jack and a whole bunch of fun stuff. So I'll let LP kind of explain how the out of bounds works and what we're looking to really get out of it.
So with out of bounds, it allows us to grab an item ahead of time that we wouldn't normally be able to get at this point. We're going to grab a red key card. So the way to do out of bounds is once Captain gets into the bathroom here, he's gonna empty out a bathtub, and he's gonna get a puzzle key. At which point Jack is gonna enter into the bathroom. At which point Captain will make his way down the stairs. He's gonna interact with some a clock, a pendulum to get another piece of the dog head. But the whole point there is you want to keep Jack at a distance. You don't want him to get too close. You don't want him to get too far. Because you need to shoot him while he's in the hallway so you can interact with the next puzzle. If Jack is too close to you, you can't interact with a certain puzzle. Which at that point, you kind of fail out of bounds. You can still do it, but it wastes so much time. You kind of want to do it all in one motion. So Captain's going to take a shot at Jack to keep him upstairs for as long as possible. So that he can finish this part of the puzzle. Jack will drop, and then he'll go down the hallway and take a shot at Jack while he's coming down the hallway. You're also looking for a specific type of animation for Jack to do. You want him to take a knee, so you kind of have to shoot him lower around like his pant line so that he takes a knee and he stays in the hallway long enough.
There is a kind of a revamped situation where I shoot him towards the head, actually, so he buckles a little bit faster. So we still have the time to do it as a result, but that's basic. It is the same premise.
And pull that off, and now what's going to happen is he's going to guide Jack up these stairs. He's going to squeeze by him, and what happens is Jack will try to grab you. If you're up against a certain part of the wall and Jack tries to grab you and you're holding forward, he'll actually push you outside of the house, where he'll be able to drop into a basement area in a few seconds.
30 frames, scoots right past him.
So now Jackson coming down the stairs, go for a grab, and he's out of bounds. So he's gonna take a certain path. This is actually a newer path that recently got discovered, I would say, probably a few months ago. It's a little bit faster than the original one. This will drop you right to where the key card is, as opposed to going down those stairs that you'll see right there. But now we don't have to do that. He's also got a pause buffer as he drops, or he's not. Okay, so in console you have the pause buffer. So the ground can load, so you can drop by it. So he has the red key card. It's just going to sit in his inventory until he can use it, because if you try to use that key card early, you can soft lock the game.
Oh yeah, it's quite the soft lock. It just it's an intense one. You don't want to mess that one up. But yeah, overall that went pretty well. Getting back in bounds. You'll hear this a lot. We have a lot of PC privilege in this game. Like frame rate is it's easily the biggest thing. We get more retries for faster, and we have some loading stuff that we don't have to deal with. So yeah, we PC privilege there for sure when it comes to getting in bounds. And
it is, yeah.
Now we're coming up on the second boss fight. We call this Jack 2.
So Jack 2 is pretty tricky. He has a lot of iframes. So some will use a visual trigger or a visual cue when to shoot Jack. Some will use an audio cue. So unfortunately he did get grabbed there, but that's okay. You can still recover pretty quickly. But he does have iframes, and if you're too slow, he'll grab you. If you're too quick, you'll hit an iframe, and he just will no-sell it. But unfortunately he did get grabbed, but he was able to recover really quickly. And then same thing there. You kind of wait for a certain dialogue to finish, and then you can shoot Jack as early as possible, hit him with the saw, and that's all she wrote. That's the end of Jack 2.
Yeah, Jack 2 can go pretty well for the most part. Getting that instant grab there kind of sucks because it does lose you about 3 to 4 seconds. But the idea is you want to push yourself as close to Jack as possible to get the shot on him as soon as the iframe's end. But if you're unlucky or you're positioning badly, the instant grab will always come out first. You can't beat it. So if you get hit by the instant grab, then that happens. But you're able to shoot him immediately after and just kind of recover the fight. So overall, that went pretty well, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it could have gone way worse.
Could have gone way worse. Jack's AI in that fight is really bad sometimes, where he'll just wander around the fight if you don't position him correctly when you kill him. It doesn't make any sense. But
yeah,
he's
like an Animal Crossing villager. He'll just kind of like walk around for a few
yeah.
minutes.
So about censored version of the game, or Sarah D as we call it, that's where it really applies the most, because on the Steam version of the game, Jack's body blows up in half and he kind of wanders around for a bit. Doesn't do that in the censored version, he just dies. So that, and when we get the snake key later, are two like key moments when we're really utilizing the censored version of the game to save time. We've got all the dog heads now, we can get out of the house. And that's really it for the main house. Now we're moving on to the old house, where we get to hang out with, if you like bugs, boy, you're going to love this.
Yeah. The big flying bugs and spiders weird you out. You might want to look away for a little bit.
You saw when I walked into the camper, I had to walk out for a second to walk back in. Capcom and all their fun triggers, for some reason we have to do that. Because ideally they want you to explore the camper, see that you can't do anything, then walk out, then, oh, the phone rings. But you just walk in and walk out, walk back in, phone rings. It's really nice.
I think there's only one more phone call we need to answer.
I believe so, in the old house. Yeah, one more.
Yeah, the rest we can skip. These are the only mandatory take. The phone will ring a few times, and at one point we're actually going to trigger the phone to ring, but ignore it.
And that's this exact
yeah, this is the only
right
mandatory one.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what's good thing. We don't have to answer too many phone calls, thankfully. I'd hate to have to answer like 5 more phone calls like when they all happen throughout the game.
Oh, God.
Just gonna spin out of here. Alright, so now we're coming up on the old house. There's a couple skips in the old house. The old house is relatively not too bad. There is one skip in it that is pretty intense in terms of, it's called the lantern skip. I'd say it's intense in a way that, like, it's kind of finicky, kind of dumb, if you ask me, that it even exists, but it's one that we have to do, and it's fun, we'll just say that.
Yeah. It's manipulating the triggers that Capcom puts in place.
Exactly. Grab the stone statuette. It's another puzzle we get to do. While me is back there getting kidnapped. We're too busy to care about that.
Yeah, sorry, we're here for you, but we're also not here for you.
Alright, we're gonna drop to 30 frames again here. This helps us get rid of the spiders on the door about 1 second faster.
Also, we apologize for Marguerite's potty mouth.
Yes. It's a good thing we don't play in English.
She is a foul woman.
So all these, the thing about the shadow puzzles, they all have one set starting point, and they all have the same solve rotation. Some of them are easy, like the spider's the easiest one. I'd say the eagle statue, the one that we did earlier, is probably the hardest one. And then we have another one later in the game that's a little bit precise, but it's not too difficult.
Wow, really? You think the eagle one's the hardest? That's, wow.
In terms of just doing it, right? Because the axe one is relatively straightforward. Like, it has a couple motions, but it's more precise, right? Like, you have to kind of line it up better. But the eagle one is like the movement can be a bit more extreme. Like, it feels like moving with that one, you'll cover way more distance than you would with any other one. So that's just my opinion. But a lot of people, like LP saying, the Axeman one is pretty, it can be pretty annoying. Now we're down here getting the crank. Because it's not a Resident Evil game unless there's a crank.
Correct. And this is also where one of the New Game Plus items will come into play, the walking shoes.
Yeah, they're not running shoes. They don't make you faster while running, they make you faster while walking.
Yep. So since we're running the whole time, it doesn't really matter, but if you're crouch walking, you actually crouch walk faster. So this is one of the few times where that actually comes in handy. It'll happen potentially a little bit later, and then it will also happen again when we change characters without spoiling it.
Can I get by Marguerite, hopefully without making her mad? Perfect.
Marguerite's kind of blind. If you kind of just touch that radiator and kind of hug it, Marguerite won't see you. She's in that room. She is right there in front of you. But apparently radiators just make her blind.
And these bugs out here can be a pain sometimes. So it's nice when they don't body block you too badly, but you got to cut them up with the knife every once in a while to avoid them from messing with your pathing. Marguerite talks to herself a whole bunch in this house. She'll randomly just say anything while you're walking past that part right there. She'll say, "There
Some
you
things,
are."
yeah, you wouldn't even think some of the things she says. You're like, wow, really?
I'm adding that one to the list.
Yeah.
So this is Marge 1. It's like a mini boss fight.
Yeah, this one's pretty straightforward. You have to use enhanced ammo the entire time. You're going to be using one shot with the Albert, which is your powerful gun, and then 3 shots or 2 shots, 2 or 3 with the G17. You're going to do like a little bit of like a flurry where you kind of hip shot, aim, so you can shoot really quickly. Yeah,
Yep.
so it's 3 shots. There you go.
Mhm.
Very nice.
That fight is usually, she's kind of a pushover. I say that, but if you mess that fight up, it becomes real bad really fast. Because Marge will back up and get out of your line of sight, and you're just stuck down there waiting for her to move again.
You can sometimes clip her, even if you can't see her, but it's very rare.
So there's another interaction. We had to mess with that that little pamphlet inside the little suitcase there where we saw like the weird mummified doll thing. It gets real strange. The game gets real strange from here on out when it comes to like what you're doing as Ethan. It's just like, why do I have a mummified baby here and an arm? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, just gonna roll with it.
All right, so now we're coming up on the lantern skip that we talked about earlier.
So
focus
lantern
on
skip
this.
is kind of annoying. It's manipulating the triggers that happen in the game. The game wants you to go upstairs and look at the lantern and go, oh, hey, who had a lantern? Marguerite had a lantern. Where's Marguerite? Oh, she's in that pit. But what Captain's going to do is he's going to go by the pit. He's going to look up, which then allows the trigger to happen. He can look down, and then the pit will open up. You can drop in and just continue on. You're not supposed to be able to do that because you can tell by the icky water that's there that's supposed to go away. You're supposed to see Marge grab that lantern, and then you can go down there. But Captain pulled that off really nicely, looked up, dropped down, and Marguerite grabbed the lantern and he's able to continue on, no problem.
Yeah, the reason that that part is spooky because you actually have to look at a very precise spot, and you can't run off the edge. You have to walk, and if you mess up where you're looking, a couple different things can happen. You can teleport back up to the top. You will fall down. Nothing will happen. You have to climb back up. It's all very annoying. But I did look down too early the first time, and then I fixed it the next time, and that worked well enough. So now here's Marge 2, the actual boss fight.
So Marge 2, kind of similar to Jack. Captain's going to do as much damage as he can to Marguerite while she's in the window. And then what he's going to do, he's going to be able to manipulate where Marge will spawn. She can have it spawn above you or below you, depending on where you're looking. So he looks up, she spawns below, does a whole bunch of damage to her. You don't want to do damage to her while she hops in the air like that. So he waited for Marge to jump down, continues to saw her, does a whole ton of damage, and takes her out in no time. That was a really good Marguerite 2 fight.
Yeah, that was it went clean, but I missed the shot in the window, and that can get really bad really fast if I miss shots in the window, because then she doesn't meet the damage threshold. And when I'm sawing her like that, she was like during a screaming animation, so we want her dead during that animation. If she's not, she's gonna jump up to the ceiling and waste a whole bunch of time.
Yes, and if you do damage to her while she hops, she'll land on her back and do something I've dubbed kickies, where she'll just flail around a lot and do a bunch of damage to you and cost you a ton of time.
Yeah, it is. It's a messing that fight up can be a real bad time. It's a pretty unforgiving fight. But yeah, that's Marge. Like we're done with Marge. So that's that part is, you know, like the old house is pretty lax in terms of what's here. You know, there's some skips. I mean, if you're a seasoned runner, you're pretty comfortable with most of these, except sometimes the lantern skip. But like that's the thing about this game is you can get real comfortable with anything. But if you mess something up, like that's where the game becomes really unforgiving because of how long it is and how optimized it is. Messing something up can really doom your time.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna pop open the story. It really likes to take its time for some reason. And this part's supposed to be really scary, but after a couple thousand times, it kind of wears off on you.
I was gonna say, speaking of Silent Hill coming up next.
This is definitely some Silent Hill vibes.
Yeah, for sure. And also for those asking in chat, so the circular saw, the Albert, stuff like that, those are all New Game Plus items. So those are items you'll get for beating the game under certain difficulties or certain challenges you'll need to do, like beating it under a certain amount of time.
And we're coming up on another retry here. This retry spawns the molded outside the store faster, or respawns him, so that he's easier to kill the second you walk out. Because if you do it beforehand, if you don't do the retry at all, you walk out, he's still spawning, and he just gets stuck, and he has iframes, and you can't kill him. It's not fun. That retry is
he's not a fun person on console. We don't have that retry on console. We have a few of these retries, but that one in particular we don't. So we kind of have to like spawn him, wait a second, and then shoot him. You can kind of shoot and then kind of move past them, but at least for me, I try to be safe.
So as you just saw, that's a thing that's an annoying thing about Resident Evil 7. Even more annoying when you're running Madhouse is it's called cheap shotting. Molded will spawn, and a lot of time you just walk right by the molded. They have like idle animations, and their wind-up attacks take a long time. But sometimes they'll do something called cheap shotting, where they'll just hit you instantly, and there's nothing you can do about it. It just happens, and you can't really do anything. On easy, it doesn't really impact us at all. On Madhouse, where the damage that the molded you are insanely high, it can doom your run pretty badly. And this is a situation where we're not answering that phone, we're just touching the camper, making the phone ring, and then walking away. Because we don't actually need to answer the phone.
Do we have time for a donation?
Yeah.
Wonderful. We have a $5 donation by Exit is saying the soothing clacking of the keyboard truly makes this RE7 run. P.S. The UFO ending is better than dog ending. And can you guess which donation incentive these $5 went to?
Did he go to the UFO?
Dog ending.
Well, you are correct.
No!
Oh, man.
Additionally, please everyone remember that during ESA Together, the first 800 subs to ESA will be matched by a $2.50 donation from our sponsor, HyperX. Let's smash that goal and work our way to another remote slot that you can all use.
Heck yeah, let's go, HyperX. Alright, there was another instance of Sarah D where we got to pick the key up on the table next to him. Usually we'd have to like dig down his throat. It's really gross.
Takes a long time too. That whole animation just gets. That's like the biggest time save that Zero D has. That cuts that entire animation out.
Alright, there's a molded here. I really want to hit the shot on this guy. He can be kind of hard sometimes.
Oh, he's my least favorite molded.
Perfect. But we got it though. He keep blocking you. If you don't kill him, you have to block a hit from him. That's not fun at all. So now we have the blue key card. Well, we don't have the blue key card yet, but now this is where we have to trigger for the red key card, even though we already have it. So the room I'm going to go into first is the red key card room. And we just have to turn this to 10:15. Normally we would have to go underneath this bed, down the stairs. All we have to do is trigger the clock for the game to recognize that we have the red key card, and then we can just move on.
Yes, without triggering that puzzle, if you, like I said, if you tried to put the key card in the door ahead of time, the game will soft lock.
Alright, now we're going to do the last shadow puzzle of the game to get the blue key card. And then we get to meet a lot of people's favorite character in this game, which is Lucas.
I believe Marforia's in chat, so you might want to look up.
Lucas does some very interesting things on the TV that a lot of people hate. I am not going to look up because I think everyone should enjoy what we're going to see. You really have to get a feel of the environment that we have here when we watch Lucas on the TV. If you haven't seen this before, good luck, because you're about to. On Zero D, it's a little less gore. It's like there's really much gore to it anyways. It's just the act of what's happening, but it's going to give you the heebie-jeebies.
I've said it before. I think Lucas would have made an amazing Dexter villain.
Oh, absolutely.
It would have been so good.
All right. This is a cutscene we can't skip. Who's going to want to? It's beautiful to watch. There is a little fun fact. There is a skip that has happened here in the past to PS4 players. It's like happened like twice, I think, ever that we've ever seen, where we start this TV and then it just explodes. It just ends. Like the cutscene just ends instantly. That's like a 3-minute time save. It's not been able to be recreated ever since. But
yeah, no one knows how to do it. Yeah.
Every time I run this game, I get a little bit of like false hope. Like maybe this is the time it happens.
anything I feel I run on a PS4.
He has a little baby head that we want. That's a head.
No, Lucas's head isn't. That's all you meant.
No. They call that a head, but it actually has a whole torso and arms. So like.
Yeah.
I don't get it. As you can see, this version of Lucas right here has all of his fingernails.
For now.
For now. This is very exciting to watch.
Mar, look away.
It makes you cringe. I've seen this 1,000 times, and I still cringed about it to this day. It is... Yikes. Lucas also says some pretty naughty words. That's what
he does.
We don't like when Lucas says naughty words. It's crazy. When I stare at Lucas's eyes, like the corners of his eyes, makes me want to itch my eyes. It just looks so bad. Like, dude, put an eye drops in or something, dude.
Yeah, just something. He's been awake for 72 days.
All right. So we have like a little bomb gauntlet coming up that I'm going to kind of focus for, and I let LP go over exactly what I'm going to be doing.
So Lucas has set up a few traps for you. He set up a few bombs in specific spots, but Captain knows where they are. So he's gonna, as he goes through these next sets of doors, he's gonna take very precise shots with his G17 or his Albert, depending on which one he uses, and blow the bombs up ahead of time so that he doesn't have to walk through them. You can walk through them if you look at them and block, but it just takes some time. Nice.
There is one more, but we don't have to we don't have to shoot it. We just have to block it.
Yeah, that one, the where it needs to be shot is like really hidden, so it's just easier to block through that one.
Perfect. It's really nice to get through that without dying or getting hit, because losing too much health there can be really, really, really bad. This is not fun.
And if you don't block during those bomb sequences, you will get knocked over. So you'll have to go through this whole animation of him getting knocked over and standing back up.
Can't enter a code here.
So Captain was very particular about which items he put away in a specific order. That's going to come into play later on. He's also going to do a retry here as well. Like we were saying earlier, depending on the way the inventory works in this game, depending on what you put away in a certain order, you'll be able to pick it up in a certain order from the item box. So that's going to come in handy later on after the boss fight and the next section of the game.
All right, we're coming up on the Lucas interaction. Lucas doesn't. This is supposed to be a boss fight, quote unquote, but it's almost the biggest pushover of the game, because it's not really a boss fight. It's kind of like an introduction to a new enemy. But we don't actually get to fight Lucas in the main game, unfortunately. We do in the DLC, and that's a great DLC. Not a hero. If you've played RE7 and you haven't played that DLC, you're messing up, man, because that DLC is amazing.
I don't want to undersell End of Zoe, though.
Yeah, End of Zoe is also amazing. You ever wanted to punch stuff? Joe Baker's your man.
It's so good. He does like wrestling moves, too. It's so good.
So for this, we're basically just going to kill him before he even gets out of the elevator. We're going to shoot him 9 times. Sometimes we get 8 because we're too slow. And then we shoot him a couple times. I'm going to hit him in the leg. And then he just dies. This game is on a set timer to activate this button, so you have a little bit of leeway when you're killing him coming out of the gate. But yeah, big pushover. And with DLC items, those are the only things I kept in my inventory. Not DLC, sorry, New Game Plus, which includes infinite ammo, the saw, and all that stuff, can be discarded, like we said earlier, through Jack 1. I do it in a specific order because it sets up for the very end of the game. So it's important that we do that because it can be tragic if you don't.
Very. And
then we already know the key code to get into the room. We want all diagonal presses if we can to do this correctly. This is a lot. This is something console has the benefit on because it is a little bit easier for them with the D-pad, I believe.
Oh man, we got something on you guys.
You do get something. It's a 1 second-ish time save, but you got it. Didn't get the other diagonals. I mispressed the bottom right, but it's not a huge time. It's like a 1 second time loss. It's minuscule. But when you're pushing for world record, it's a lot.
The code is always going to be 1408. If you try to be cheeky and enter it in early, the code will change to a different code. It's only one of two, but it's always 1408 as long as you don't try to enter it in early. Also, low key, one of the best parts of this game is this room.
Yeah, this took a lot of inspiration from Saw. A lot of inspiration from Saw. But we already know all the puzzles, so we don't need to worry about any of it.
No, but if you're gonna play this game casually, this is like one of the best puzzle parts of the entire game. It's essentially an escape the room. Really, really cool.
All right. The idea is we need to put the lit candle on the cake back there, but we can't because the water's running. Why didn't we just cover up the candle with our hand? I don't know. This will always be loser. Which is 5 down or 5 up every time.
Some people like to sing as they go down each one.
I think specifically Marforia, who is a very popular runner for RE7. She's great at running, very entertaining. She'll always sing when she does that. Alright, now we got this on. Hooray. There is a thing about this game that we didn't really touch on much, but there's animations in this game. So the closer you are, or more in front of items you are that require an animation to start, the less amount of time it takes to start. So I'll try to put myself as close to things as possible or as in front of things as possible so the animation is faster. It seems like a minuscule thing, but it actually saves quite a bit of time throughout the game. And that crank there and these candles here were like a example of that where I'm positioning for it. And we're just going to grab this bomb and put it through this hole that's conveniently right here.
So weird how that works. Lucas is a really bad Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Really, though. Or a really good one. I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, you're right.
So we just have to wait. It's going to be a couple seconds. This bomb will go off. Then we get the...
Go through that spot quickly because there is a coughing animation that can happen with the smoke. So as long as you get through that room quickly, you'll skip that animation.
Grab all of our items out that we need up until the crank, nothing past it. Now the inventory is set up in a way where I know where everything is, right? So the idea is I know where the crank's at. It's at the very bottom left. I know I have my Albert at 2, G17 at 3, and Saw at 1. This is important. It's a little dumb how important it is, but it's important that we know where everything's at and how we're going to pull it out later. Because a lot of this stuff carries over to the next part of the game. But right now we're coming up on the our last encounter with Jack in the main game. Dubbed Jack 3. This fight is... to do it fast, you want a 1 cycle. If you mess up the 1 cycle, you can lose like almost a minute's worth of time. But I'm going to be focusing for it, and my good man LP here will pretty much discuss what's going on in this fight.
Yeah, it's kind of an annoying fight, but we'll be there shortly. But I will say it's all really predicated on like a single shot, and if you miss that single shot, it's gonna hurt the rest of the fight. But someone like Ezekiel has no problem getting that shot.
No pressure.
Yeah. Now you have to get it.
I saw that crawler instead of shooting it because it has iframes that annoy me, and sometimes I miss it, and I just don't like taking the risk anymore. So I
do the same thing. I can't shoot him. I see plenty of other people shoot him. I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna use the saw because he will die very quickly with the saw.
Yeah, and now here we are at the most random time save found by a very special community member named Nick's Issues. I don't know why this happens, and he only discovered it because he broke his game, so that tells you a lot about this. So normally we would just sit here and wait for her to make the serum, but we're just... Everybody, I don't want to stand up there. It's too stuffy up there. We're going to run down here, give a high five to the loot box, and then we're going to run up the stairs again. And for some reason, this causes her animation to finish faster. Saves 3 seconds. Why? No idea. You tell me.
Yeah.
All right, now here's Jack 3.
So, like I was saying, Jack 3 is predicated on a single shot. So what's going to happen is when this fight starts, Captain's going to shoot Jack right in the face, and then there's a eye that you need to pop that's in his undercarriage is a nice way to put it. And it's the most annoying eye to pop. So he's going to stand up on those boards there and shoot down and pop it very nicely. And then what he's going to do now is he's going to take a circular saw and kind of make his way around the body in a specific order to pop each eye a specific way, just to keep where everything is within arm's reach, essentially. So you're not really running around too much to pop everything. So he's going to pop that arm. And he's going to get 2 more. There's one on top and there's one on the side. There is a quick kill animation for Jack. No one really quite knows how to get it yet, but sometimes you can interrupt an animation of Jack perishing. And he won't like growl or anything. He'll just go underneath the water. It saves a few seconds, but no one knows how to get it.
Yeah, it's kind of random. The world record was held for a small amount of time because of that animation.
Yeah.
But didn't get it this time around. I do like climbing up the ladder there because it's a weird animation where he just yanks you down from the top of the ladder and you end up right in front of him. But yeah, that Jack 3 was surprisingly really smooth. Hitting that shot underneath his stomach or his undercarriage, as LP said, it's hard because you only get 2 moments up top there to get that. If you miss the first one, you'll swing and come around. You get 1 more shot. If you miss it, I don't want to say it's doomed, but it's doomed. So
yeah.
It becomes way hard. You lose like a minute's worth of time because you no longer can really get the 1 cycle as easily. There might be some weird way you can do it, but you definitely lose time for sure.
Yeah, you pretty much have to wait for the cycle to repeat. He'll go to swing again, and then that'll open up, and you'll be able to take the shot again. But at that point, you've already lost so much time.
Yeah, and that's the end of Jack. We'll miss him. Not really, actually. Play the DLC. You'll see more. He turns into Darth Vader. It's crazy. So, actually more like Cthulhu. But, so, now we use one of the serums to kill Jack, which means that, who do we choose? Now, everyone in their right mind chooses Zoe, right? Because Zoe saved you throughout the game. She guided you out and got you out. You can't do that. Unfortunately, if you save Zoe, it's a minute slower, because that leads to the non-canon ending. We have to save Mia. I'm not a fan of it personally, but we have to do it, because then if we save Zoe, we lose a minute to a boss fight that we would normally have. And it goes into the non-canon ending where both Mia and Zoe die. But that is not canon. We have to save Mia. Feels bad, man. I would definitely rather save Zoe. But now we have a boat cutscene that's going to take us a few minutes. So if there are donations, please feel free.
Wonderful. We currently don't have any donations, so please keep those coming. But have you all heard of a little thing called Twitch Prime? Okay, well, who hasn't? Right, I mean, it's plugged everywhere. So Twitch Prime is, of course, a free subscription to a channel of your choice that you get when you have Amazon Prime, your Amazon Prime account linked to your Twitch account. So if you have your Twitch Prime sub just sitting around waiting to be used, please consider using it on this channel to support ESA so that we can continue to put on future marathons.
I know where I'm using my Twitch Prime. It's definitely for ESA Marathon.
Do it.
So we basically sit in this boat here, where we talk to Mia, and we're like, hey, Mia, what's up? I think you got a little bit of maybe explaining to do. And she just says, no, I don't know. And that's this whole conversation. Is Ethan's like, hey, tell me what's going on. Mia says, I don't know. And that's it. And we just ride through this boat for a little bit longer awkwardly because she won't tell us what happened. But I can tell you what happened, and we'll see it here on the next part of the game where I play as Mia. Mia works for the Connections, and it's basically her fault. We're just going to say it's her and her partner's fault that Evie did everything she did. So, TLDR, it's Mia's fault. And that's just what we're going to roll with.
I mean, I would argue it's less Mia and more. But, you know, that's just me.
That's fair. I'm very about the anti-Mia propaganda. That is my whole spiel. I am not a Mia fan. And I'm in the Discord constantly. Anytime someone brings up how much they like Mia, I'm like, let me remind you why we don't like Mia. And then we get basically what happens is Evie is the bioweapon that caused all this. has an attachment to Mia, knocked us off the boat, and is kidnapping Ethan. And now we get to play as Mia. And this part of the game, so the funny thing about this part of the game is this part used to be considered the cakewalk of the game. This used to be considered the, like, you just walk through the end of the game. Easy peasy. But unfortunately, some skips were found. These skips are probably the scariest in the run just because of their nature and, like, how much time they save and where they are in the run. So these time saves are at the end of the game, and they save the most time. If you mess any of them up, if you're like a top 10 runner, a top 5 runner, you're trying to go for a decent time, you mess any of them up, and the run dies. That's why we don't... This part makes a lot of people nervous, especially me. So I'm really looking forward to not messing them up, hopefully.
Yeah, the first one is super important. The second one is important, but it's not nearly as damaging as the first one.
Yeah, it can be pretty hit or miss. There's like 3 interactions that are coming up, and we'll kind of go over. But before then, that's called the Mia tape, is what we're referring to. But up until then, we're kind of just on like we're just walking through as Mia kind of recollects her thoughts about what happened during the ship and how it really is all her fault. But that's basically what we're going to see here. Some flashbacks. Here's some ship people talking about like uh-oh, ship's going down. So that's basically what you're going to see here for a few minutes.
It's essentially Guest House 2.0.
Definitely the most apt description I've never heard in my entire life, but makes the most sense.
Like, you're not doing nearly as much. You're just kind of walking around, like...
You just learn the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on a little cutscene that we're just going to trigger with this helmet. Is these 2 fellas talking about how reused their assets are. Identical.
You're the same person.
We're going down this hatch in a second, but there's a way we can do... There's something in this game called fast dropping, where if you go down holes or jumps at certain angles, you'll, like, fall faster. Like, that. Usually that takes, like, a half a second longer. Getting stuck in that corner, also not very fun, but, you know, it's here we are. And we're coming up on the second to last retry of the game, I believe. No, not the second last, but one of the last ones. Down this hole. There's a really long animation once you get down the hole and touch the ground that you don't want to mess with that. So we're just going to do the retry halfway falling down, and it puts us on the ground. I'm not sure if we get a speed boost here. I don't believe we do.
I don't think so.
But it just gets us down to the ground faster. That is a retry that console does not have the privilege of using because of how console loading works. Because that loaded for me in about 5 seconds. Takes them about a minute to load that. And the loading counts towards in-game time.
I was gonna say the pausing and everything doesn't count toward in-game time, and also you'll see. I know someone asked it earlier in chat. You'll see him kind of scroll on the menu when he pauses. That's because he's holding forward. Because once you get out of that load, you want to be able to run immediately. So you'll see a lot of runners still holding down, up or down, whatever direction they're going in. That's why it'll scroll like that.
Yep, momentum is pretty important in any speedrunning game. If you can keep your momentum, why wouldn't you? Oh, we got a fast drop there too. That one is a little bit more inconsistent for me, so it's nice to get that one sometimes. And Evie loves to slow us down. She's Mia 2.0. Can't really... Okay, there we go. Now we can. We're going to grab this fuse, and we're making our way up to the tape. We'll stop a little bit too early, but that's fine.
So an interesting thing about the tapes, normally in the game, if you're playing it casually, the tapes are kind of like a look back in time to kind of get you prepared for things that are coming up in the game. So it's a lot of foreshadowing. It's a really neat way that they handled how they tell some backstory stuff. But none of them are mandatory except for this one coming up. You have to do this one, or else the game just won't continue.
Yep, this is where we get introduced to the second shortest lived character behind the cop. This is Alan. Everyone loves Alan.
No, they don't.
So I like to say this is all Mia's fault. Realistically, it's his fault. This is actually all his fault. They don't really go into detail about it, but it's his fault, right? Like during this cutscene, he says, "It's my fault she got out," and then Mia just basically says, "Yeah, totally." Yeah, totally. It's definitely your fault, bro, but I can't let you die.
Yeah, she doesn't sugarcoat it at all.
But Alan has a couple skips. He likes to call us on our phone, and we like to not talk on the phone slowly with Alan. So we have 2 skips in this game, Alan 1 and Alan 2, to skip this. The first one you can do without the shoes. I'm going to use the shoes because it is a safer strategy. I lose like 2 seconds, but I'd rather use the safer strat than lose like 15 seconds because that's how long the first call is. It's like 12 to 15 seconds. So we're going to go in here and we're going to grab the shoes out of here because that way we're faster while walking. And I'll let LP kind of describe how these skips work.
So yeah, him grabbing the shoes was actually really important for this. It's a marathon strat, right? So you got to make sure you can do it. So what happens here is you're going to want to interact with the mold that's coming up here, and then quickly turning out the doorway to skip the call. So what happens is when you got it, which is awesome. So when you're on a call with Alan, you can't open doors, you can't interact with anything. So what you want to do is open those doors and get through them quickly. So it skips the animation for whatever reason. The trigger goes, oh, okay, you're good. You don't have to have this conversation. And then you can interact with the door and leave. If not, you have to wait for that call, wait at the door, and you can't do anything about it.
And this molded shot, let's hope I get it. Nice.
Ooh, that was pretty.
So that's a newer strat. That's dubbed by Ross Rossi. He's the current world record holder. That guy's amazing at this game. Holds both console and PC records. You have to kill that molded, and that molded has to be completely dead or out of the elevator for you to be able to use the elevator. Now, you can saw him to get a certain death animation to make that happen, but Ross discovered that you can shoot him. I think he discovered it, but hopefully he'll correct me later if I'm wrong. But you shoot him in the falling down from the ceiling, which is a hard shot to hit, and you quickly aim down to shoot his leg before any iframes come into play. And he dies instantly. So that strategy is relatively new to me, and certainly not easy. This skip is pretty scary.
So what Captain did there is he dropped a bomb right by that door. So what's going to happen is he's going to trigger this part with Evie, this conversation, and then at which point you're going to get another phone call. Also important to know when you have to walk faster while you're on a call, so that that door that he put the bomb in front of is normally shut, and like we said, when you're on a call you can't interact with the door, but if you place that bomb in a specific way and blow it up while you walk past it, you can actually push Mia through the door and open it up. You can mess that up to where the bomb will explode and nothing will happen, or you'll explode right on it, at which point Mia will drop, she'll take a lot of damage. The door will still open early, so you do get kind of a skip, but you also took a ton of damage in the process.
Do we have time for a donation?
In about a second we will.
Sure.
You got it. Very nice.
Yeah, that skip is very nerve-wracking. Messing that up can be so bad, because if you do take the full blast, you can get put into something called danger in this game, or critical, however you want to call it. And it's very common in Resident Evil games to get to the lowest point of health before dying, and you'll be very slow. And then these guys, if they cheap shot you, you'll just die. And that's just something that happens to you. So we're going to detonate this, kill this guy, and now we have time for a donation.
Wonderful. We have a $25 donation by Basil171 saying, gotta support my boy, doing awesome. We also have a $10 donation by MOD360's Hey, that's me, saying, hey guys, your donation reader here. There are now $400 missing for Silent Hill 2 plank only. I want to see that. I'm sure you want to see that. So why don't we all chip in to make it happen? Thanks Ezekiel for the run and Up Soldier for the commentary.
Nice.
You are welcome.
Absolutely welcome. Thank you guys for having us. It's fun to run these games, especially RE7 at events, because it doesn't show up very often, so I like to show off the new strats that we have. So we're coming up at the end of the tape, so we can happily say that every skip went well. We had every skip, so woo! Okay, so now that that's done, we're going to end Mia tape in the best way fashionable, or possible, whatever. And we're going to watch Alan pay the price, basically. and he's going to teach us a very important lesson that 3 characters like to make back-to-back in this game, which is you don't call Eevee bad names.
Yeah.
But I guess Alan's just too cool for school with that one, and so we get to see him here, and we do have a little bit of a longer cutscene coming up, but you get to watch Alan. It's really morbid to say, but you get to watch him die, but he's a bad guy, so it's fine.
Perish.
He's gonna cross the rainbow
Eevee
bridge.
might be a bit of a monster, but she has feelings too.
Yeah, she definitely has feelings. That's basically this whole game, is Eevee has feelings. Why did you do this? He calls her a bad name, and almost immediately after, it's a little gross, by the way. Uncensored, it looks a little bit fine. You don't really notice much of a difference because you don't see as much gore. Like, there's no dismemberment or anything, but we also have the graphics turned down for FPS reasons, so it's not as in detail, but it is a little bit morbid to watch it happen. So the point of doing the Mia tape was this showed us where everything was, what we need to do to get out of the ship as Mia. But it's different now, right? Because there's going to be way more molded for us to deal with and a lot more obstacles. But we already know where everything is because we've speedrun the game before, so we know where everything we need is. And there's not much for skips really at this part of the game. However, there is something that has been dubbed the God Door. And the God Door is a door we want to open, get in, and get out of before it closes, because you have to wait for the door to close before you can go through it, because that's how doors work. It's a 1 second time save, very minuscule, but there's like you get a little like bump of pride if you get it, and I don't know why. We're just gonna walk down this hallway, and we get our first only skippable cutscene of the game. Excuse me.
Yeah, you PC runners have that God Door nice and easy.
Yeah, it's way easier for us than it is for console.
And I've heard people say like, oh, it's not that hard on console. Stop, you're lying. Also on console, this load time is super long.
Yeah, that's crazy. The very trademark Eevee laugh that Carcinogen does very well. If you haven't seen that, Carcinogen ran this game at GDQ like 3 years ago, and he mimicked that laugh, and it was terrifyingly accurate. Big fan of it. So now that we're Mia, we're looking to grab the parts we need to finish up this ship, right? Because we are nearing the end of the game, but we're not quite there yet. So basically, we just have to save Ethan now, because the turn is how the turntables, right? So now we have to find him by getting down to the basement, which is where he's at. So just grabbing a couple key items and getting through without dying is basically what we're trying to do here. There is one little, I'm not going to say skip, but a little time save that was found by, I think, Ross, utilizing a bomb on this part of the ship. Did I just pick something up? That wasn't the log wrench? I probably didn't. But we're going to see a little bomb trick that we're going to use to kill a mold that we typically would have to run around, but we don't have to do that this time. Okay, no, I didn't pick anything up.
I think you almost picked up the map. I think you were good though.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was mashing a little too early.
Yeah, you were very close to that map.
It wouldn't have doomed anything, but you'd sit through like a couple seconds of time loss. So we're going to grab this knife here. We're going to need it. We're going to go for God Door. It's very straightforward. Easy peasy.
Look at that. Look at that.
Grab that bomb. And now there's a molded crawler down here we would normally have to run around and block a hit from to get around, but we're going to use a bomb to just blow them up, and no problem. That's a relatively new one that not many people, I think, are really aware of to get around that guy, because he's a pain.
That one's new for me.
So we have the fuse that we got. Now we need to get the power cable, which is just going to be right up here. We're going to run by a Fat Molded. These guys are fun. The Fat Molded have some strange RNG with them sometimes with how they move. They can sometimes be bolting out of places really fast for some reason, and sometimes they're just super slow. We use this animation to like see how he jumped at us to try to hit us. We just dodge it because animations. The animation put us like out of reach of him, so makes it nice and easy.
I give them Molded so much credit because he tries. He tries really hard.
Definitely
to
tries. He tries
yeah,
again.
he never does.
On our way out, never gets it. If we give it to him every
Sometimes
now
he
and then.
can.
So we're gonna unscrew this guy. We can hear the fat molded next to us. Out of sight, out of mind. Don't really worry about him yet.
It's also amazing how his projectile vomiting can actually pass through walls.
Yeah, sometimes it hits you, and sometimes it does. Most of the time, it won't hit you if it goes through a wall, but if it does, and that's just really unlucky for you. Just kind of squeeze by him, and then we get this guy again. He's trying his best. Look at him. No dice.
I'm gonna get you. Oh.
And that's basically all we need to get back to Ethan. Put those in. I get really close like this, and I position my camera down because one time during a run, I was looking a little too far up and I hit the 1, and we just went straight up to floor 1. Then I had to re-click it to go back down to floor 2. It's really upsetting when that happens.
Yeah, it's not fun. Us as RE7 runners, we had a tournament this past summer, and we had a bingo board of things we could have done in our runs, and one of them was hit the wrong elevator button.
I got a cheap shot by that guy. Sometimes this molder can jump back. Nope. So we just kind of walk around him. Speaking of RE7 tournaments, there is another one coming up this summer. If you're interested, hit up the RE7 Discord to know more about that.
Yeah,
we'll
everyone's super cool in that Discord. Everyone's willing to help.
The RE7 Discord is like where I started, and it's helps a lot. So that's basically it. We're coming up on the second to last retry, which is just gonna happen right here to skip a little bit of a cutscene. And that's it for Mia. We're done playing as Mia.
Woo!
Now we're in a sad cutscene, but this is a cutscene, so if there are donations or anything, please feel free.
Well, let's see. I was not prepared right now, to be honest.
Gotta keep you on your toes.
You got me there. So let's see. Unfortunately, no new donations, but we do have some nice prizes from our sponsor HyperX. So if you donate like $20, you are in for our prize, the HyperX Pulsefire Dart wireless mouse, which is a really cool design. And well, I haven't used it myself yet, but I'm pretty sure it's a really good bit of tech. And with the $20, you are also in for the French indie game bundle and the HyperX Fury Ultra RGB mousepad, which are both a minimum donation of $15. So if you want to get those prizes, you do just have to donate.
Awesome. Get those donations going, guys. Also, funny thing, Jack's shadow doesn't work real well. You see how his arms, he has no torso? Like, you see right here, he's fine, but if you look at the wall, where's his torso? Why is his head floating? Why is his arms floating? He has no
like
body. It's weird. It's really trippy, and I don't like it.
That's the worst one.
It's so bad. So basically, in this cutscene, Jack just kind of tells you, "Hey, like, it wasn't us." And this, if you, in your first playthrough of this game, it's actually really sad seeing this because you killed Jack. And he's basically like, "Hey, none of us are actually killers. We're all really nice people." And then you play the Daughters DLC, and you actually like see how it all happened. It's really depressing. This game's story was like fantastic in that sense.
Yeah, it's very good.
Now, if we had chosen to save Zoe earlier, we would have a boss fight coming up right here where we kill Mia. But thankfully we don't have to do that. And we don't have an axe this time. It's garbage. We have to use like a crowbar. You can't get multiple hits on a crowbar.
No.
This isn't Half-Life. We didn't sign up for that.
Or did we?
We might have. She pulls us out of the mold. Could you imagine how this must have smelled, by the way, guys? Oh my
awful.
god.
This
Imagine
whole
you're
area.
Ethan. Have you ever been in an old dusty basement that has mold in it? You know the smell, but like amplified times 10?
Instant headache.
Really?
Also, how bad like Mia must smell. Like she's been there for like 3 years. Like, what are the odds that like they let her take a shower?
So little. Her hair would be way greasier than what it looks like.
And it looks pretty greasy now.
Yeah. Alright, now we're back as Ethan. We're in sort of the final stretch of the game, where now our objective is to kill Evelyn, because she needs to die. She's bad news. The only way we're going to be able to do that is with a neurotoxin. And this, now that we're at the final stretch of the game, this is where the inventory management that we did way earlier during Lucas comes into play. And how vitally important it is that we did it in the way that we did it. Because it enables the ending part of the game to be a lot easier and a lot faster. And once we come up to that in a moment. But we're going to walk through this water a little bit. That slows us down.
All of the sleeping fish.
Very
are just
sleepy.
sleeping. Yeah.
They're all very tired. We've been doing this for an hour and a half. They've got to be tired.
Yeah.
And very deep water, I guess. This fish is coming along for the ride. Okay, so normally old strats, the way we used to do it, is we'd come up out of this hole and we'd grab the rocket launcher and all of our stuff out of the box. But we can save time during an animation later by just grabbing the grenade launcher. The benefit of this is that we save time. The scary part about this is we have one shot, only one shot. If we mess it up, yikes, it gets a lot harder. And that's why it's important for the item box later. No button skip. Feels bad. There's a skip you can get there with a molded hitting you while you're hitting the button, and it'll end the animation early. So what we're going to do is we have to use this grenade launcher to time a shot to kill a molded and hit a bomb at the same time, and then we go all the way to get to the neurotoxin. So I'll let LP go into a bit more details about like what I'm doing here in the salt mines, because it's all kind of happening really fast. So yeah.
So basically what's going to happen here is he's going to use his one round that he's got here to take out, there's a bomb coming up with a crawler molded. Take those two things out at the same time. And then he's going to make his way through the salt mines, just avoiding any sort of cheap shots. You can get cheap shotted a few times here. You really don't want to. It's not going to be too detrimental to him, but you obviously don't want to. And he's going to make his way into the lab, at which point he will then create the neurotoxin, and also do a bit of a newer strat involving the time that it takes to make the neurotoxin and then going to his item box. Traditionally, you would have went to your item box in that little cabin where you got the grenade launcher, but fairly recently another strat was started to be used, where I don't remember who came up with that one. I don't know if it was Nyx or if it was Ross. I'm not sure, but grabbing everything while the neurotoxin is being made. He's also going to block this bomb because he doesn't have any ammo to take that one out.
So now we did the inventory correct earlier. This should work out for us. Should being the keyword. Perfect.
Awesome. Nicely done.
Yeah, so getting through that, so funny story, since we have a minute here. That tournament that he talked about, LP talked about a minute ago, I was in that tournament, and I messed that up and pulled all the incorrect items out of the inventory, out of the box, and my inventory filled and no way to move stuff in a reasonable amount of time, and lost like 30 seconds because of it. It was the saddest thing you've ever seen on daytime TV. It was not good. But now...
Yeah, it's risky.
It's definitely risky. Now we have the salt mines. And LP can go over that one in the last retry of the game.
So this is also the biggest and most important retry of the game, because it is the most noticeable retry, because it definitely increases your speed boost. So he's going to make his way up the salt mines, taking out these molded. The retry also helps because it makes the molded spawn a specific way. You kind of reset their spawning animation, so you know where they're going to be at all times. So he's going to use a combination of the grenade launcher and his Albert, switching back and forth. Some runners will use one over the other. A lot of runners will also use both. Make his way through here, at which point he's going to interact with 2 fat molded. The fat molded, to avoid them, you're going to want to use the neuro rounds. The neuro rounds will stun an enemy, so you don't want to kill the fat molded just because it'll take too long. So what you do is you shoot the neuro round in the middle of them, keeping them at bay long enough so that they don't knock you down off the ladder, which Captain did expertly.
Yeah, that for the most part went well. Unfortunately, I pulled out the wrong gun while running and missed the shot. And got bumped to do things. But the ideal situation is you don't get hit while running up there, and you kill everything, and you don't get stuck too long. I did get cheap shot at the end, but you know, what is it, a marathon run without getting cheap shot like 6 times throughout the whole run? But for the most part, that went pretty well. So now we're coming up with like the last part of the game for the most part before the last boss fight. Old strats used to dictate that we would use a bomb to complete the last part of the game here, which was a little bit safer. But because we had to do the inventory the way that we did it, we had to set up everything the way that we had to set up, we couldn't afford to have the bomb at this part of the game. So we're going to try to do one cycle Evelyn, which is coming up in a second. We're going to try to inject Evie after only 1 blast. And while in the middle of the second blast, getting her with the injection, this is a very tight timing. If I mess it up, I'll get knocked down, and I'll take a lot of damage. I can die at this part of the game very easily. We don't want that to happen.
Evie does a ton of damage in this section. Basically, to kind of explain it ahead of time, Evie has a radius, right? And you kind of want to get into that radius. So as long as you get into that radius before she does her second hit or is in the middle of her second hit, it'll launch Ethan forward, causing him to inject Evie before the second attack can go off. The bomb strat traditionally was similar to how the second Allen skip worked, where you would launch yourself through the door. This would be the same way. You would drop a bomb kind of at the beginning of the room, use the bomb to explode, and launch yourself forward at Evie. But it turns out you don't really have to do that. You just need to commit. That's the biggest thing as far as this skip goes, or doing the one cycle, is committing to the act of doing.
Yeah, it's going to look very close. Like, it's going to look like I'm definitely not going to get it. If I do it correctly, I will still get it.
So he's going to move within that radius and push himself forward.
Oh, that was close.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was
so
really close.
Oh.
That was, I got hit. It was like perfect. Okay. All right, we got her. It's fine. Everyone calm down.
There you go.
Chill out.
Everything's fine.
And look
and
at
now
her hair.
The hardest part of the game. Also, yeah, check out that hair.
Look at that hair. Also, watch the wheelchair. Where does it go? You tell me where it goes. Yeah, spoiler alert, Evie was the grandma the whole time. Without her treatments, she grew, her age went up exponentially. And where are you going, wheelchair? Where are you going? It's just gone. Hardest fight of the game right here.
Mm-hmm.
Very unforgiving, very technical.
This is where quiet time would come into play. Just really got to focus.
Cool, that's phase 1.
All right, all right. Ooh, that was tense.
That's really hard. I started to sweat a little bit. And this is the ending of the game, where you have another little part of the boss fight, also very difficult, equally hard if I do say so.
Yeah.
Look who shows up right on time after everything's basically done. So there's nothing I can do right now. I'm just kind of hanging out, looking at the trees. Look at that rock right there. That's a nice rock. I can't do any damage to Evie right here. I have to get hit like 3 times until she picks me up. Now I'm going to get stabbed in the leg. It's a reoccurring theme in this game to stab Ethan. And now all I do is we're going to saw her arm out because we don't like being picked up like a baby. And then now we're going to get the gun that we've had all game. The Albert.
But slightly different ammo? I don't know.
Maybe it's a little bit more polished. Who knows, dude? This one has a laser sight on it. Maybe that's it. So, 3 shots to EV Space kills her. Ideally, we shoot 4 and she dies because she blocks one of them. That's it. I'll call time when time's up, but that's the last fight. Very easy.
Job.
Thanks.
Great run.
Time's coming up in a second. I will let you know. As soon as she takes her sweet time to fall apart, eventually. It wouldn't be Resident Evil 7 if we didn't have an unskippable cutscene somewhere.
Of course.
Alright. And time. With Resident Evil 7, we go by the in-game timer, however. What was the real time?
Let me see. Let me load it up. 1:28:53.
So our actual time was 1:27:45.
Wow.
That's actually a really good time. That's crazy.
Really good.
That's actually crazy that my time is that fast. Actually, that's really surprising. That's only 10 seconds longer than my PB, which I broke like a month ago. So that's incredibly fast. I missed wall skip and everything too. That's awesome. Actually, very happy with that. That went really well. That was awesome.
Good job.
Thank you.
You should be proud of that one. That was very, very good.
Perfect. So, we were waiting on something else here. I'm not quite sure.
Well, do you have some shoutouts that you want to do?
Oh yeah, definitely shout out LP. Amazing commentary, and I'm glad you came in at short notice. You did an awesome job, really.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, check out LP. He's really good at this game on console. Also, big shout outs to the RE7 Discord for helping me when I first. They're so helpful over there, guys. If you ever want to run this game, just go check them out. Like, they're so helpful. Yasi, Ross, ZGL, everyone. They're all very nice people over there. They'll teach you a lot about the game, and we have so many resources available. A lot of shout outs to my brother who watched my stream a lot, who literally sat through. I've sat through thousands of hours of this game. He sat through just as much. It's crazy. We grinded this game for years just figuring this out, and he really played a big part in that. And so shout outs to him, and really just the people who watch my stream, and obviously ESA. Thank you for having me. Resident Evil 7 hasn't been showing out a marathon of this caliber in quite a while, so I was happy that I was able to do it and show what we've been working on. So, obviously, hopefully we get this into GDQ sometime soon. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you, everyone. It was really fun to run.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Captain Ezekiel and LP Soldier. So, before our next game starts, which will be Silent Hill 2, we do want to remind you that there are several ways to help ESA for future marathons. So we've talked about donations, we've talked about subscriptions. There's also cheers. Your friends all already sub to ESA. Cheering is another fantastic way to support the channel and keep this amazing content coming your way in the future. So if you get some bits laying around, just cheer to ESA, and that will help us all. But now we will prepare for Silent Hill 2 after this short intermission.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.